since this is new for everybody.
Yeah, the Zoom takes a little bit of time.
But I'm glad to see everybody's punching in early, so that's good. Thank you for doing that. We will iron out any kinks as we go forward. I'm sure we will continue being on Zoom for the near future.
I think so.
Okay, so the caller, there's a caller on the screen, and that's Commissioner Eames, just so everybody's aware. No image, no name. That's who is on the telephone number. Okay, it is 5:32. We will call the meeting of the Human Rights Commission for the City of Palm Springs, California. To order Monday, July 13, 2020. And we're set right at 5:32. To start us off, I just wanted to just share a few words with the commission and those residents that are watching. You know, these are certainly very emotional and stressful times for all of us in the community, not only the health crisis, but our social justice and racial justice issues that have taken the forefront are very challenging times, and they certainly wear on all of us in the community. We understand that. And we also want to recognize that we understand that this does play a heavy toll on the commissioners who have the passion in their hearts to serve on the Human Rights Commission. So our hearts go out to all the commissioners and the residents in Palm Springs during these very stressful times. Our meetings were suspended a few months back at the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. We've continued to not have a meeting, but as we resume our regular operations, I just want to make sure that the commission knows, our city staff and all of the residents know that we will work closely with city staff to ensure, however we meet, in whatever form that we meet, that we will be practicing proper social distancing guidelines. And we will not meet in person until the time is right for us to be doing that, and there will be no health worries or considerations. So in as much as we've been very disappointed that we have not been able to meet as the Human Rights Commission, I did want to take a moment at the start of our meeting to give a shout out and just to say how personally proud I have been to see the rallies and the gatherings in the community following the murder of George Floyd. I'm especially proud to see the rally organized by youth that was labeled "Enough is Enough" at Ruth Hardy Park on June 6th. This group of teenagers demonstrated incredible leadership in our community, and they are known as the Young Justice Advocates. And I just wanted to start our meeting today giving them a shout out and encouragement for their leadership and raising their voices in the community. And while they did that, they brought our community together during a very difficult and stressful time. And it was powerful to see that happen and to see it organized by a group of teenagers, female teenagers. I'm incredibly proud to see that happen here in our city. So typically, we start our meeting with the reading of the mission statement. And I'd like to invite one of our new commissioners to read that first paragraph on item 2. How about Commissioner Owen? Oops, you might be on mute.
Oh, there we go. Is that better?
There we go. We can hear you now.
All right. The mission of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission is to promote and protect the diversity of our community and to improve human relations through education and community awareness.
Excellent. And we normally don't read through the goals, but I'd like to read through the goals as we're starting with new commissioners today. So if we can start, Commissioner Rummerin, would you like to read the first four goals for us?
Gladly. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Goals: to develop community education programs, to investigate and mediate instances of discrimination of groups or individuals, to bring persons and groups together in common support of human rights issues, to acquire the fiscal and human resources necessary to support and accomplish the work of the Commission.
Excellent. Do we have Commissioner Shepherd on? So I will bounce it back to Commissioner Owen, if you can read the remainder for us.
Sure. To support or to provide management and coordination for the Commission, to promote diversity through the appointment of candidates to all city boards and commissions to proportionately reflect the diversity of the population of the city of Palm Springs. The Commission and each committee shall develop goals and objectives annually for adoption by the Commission. The Commission shall work closely with the Mayor, City Council, and City Cabinet, and with all other city commissions and boards in joint endeavors that support the Commission's mission, statement, and the city's goals and objectives.
How about that? Good job to our new commissioners. Jay, do we have quorum?
Yes, Mr. Chair, am I on? We have quorum. 8 of 9 members are present.
Okay. Moving on to item 4, public comment. This time has been set aside for the members of the public to address the Human Rights Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission. 3 minutes is allowed for each speaker. Although the Commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Commissioners will not enter into discussion with speakers, but during Commission comments may refer the matter to staff for report and recommendation at a future Commission meeting. So we are open for public comment, and I will turn it over to Jay to help us facilitate.
Mr. Chair, we have one public speaker, Mr. Weiner. You are on, and it's your microphone.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, well, a minute, David.
Yes.
Jay, are you timing?
Yes, all time.
Okay, it should be way less than 3 minutes, I think.
Well, welcome.
Okay. To honorable members of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission. My name is David Weiner. I'm a 16-year resident of Palm Springs, and I'm speaking to bring to your attention a petition that I started to remove the statue of Mayor Frank Bogart from in front of Palm Springs City Hall. So this petition has been on change.org for about a month now. We have over 2,100 signatures. It is generating a lot of comment on both sides, for and against, to the City Council. And I know that the City Council will be addressing it as part of the listening sessions that they are starting this coming Saturday at 11 a.m. So the reason I started the petition was, as you may or may not know, Mayor Bogart had a well-documented role in relocating hundreds of primarily minority residents out of Section 14, adjacent to downtown, and to the outskirts of town or even other cities in the area. Many residents of Palm Springs don't know the history of Section 14, but Mayor Bogert was instrumental in these policies of forced relocations and in fact served as a conservator for tribal members who owned the land, where he personally signed some of the eviction orders. Many of you know people whose families were relocated in the 1960s. The California Attorney General Office in 1968 issued a report that blasted the city's actions in these relocations, closing with, Palm Springs ignored that the residents of Section 14 were human beings. I can only imagine how a resident whose grandparents were forcibly relocated to other areas of town must feel when going to City Hall for services and seeing a statue of the man responsible for this injustice so prominently displayed and celebrated. We're facing a national discussion on race relations and how we can all be better and do better. Societies evolve, opinions and views change, and we become more sensitive to pain and hurt of our fellow humans. We cannot change the events that occurred 60 years ago, but we can start a conversation and listen to each other. Removing the statue, or rather moving the statue, won't erase the history, and the Palm Springs Historical Society has already conceded that point. You know, above the entrance to the city council chambers, it says the people are the city. Let's make each one of our residents feel that that statement includes them. I believe it's time for the statue of Mayor Bogert to remove from the entrance to City Hall. And I hope that in your own ways, you may take me up in this endeavor to relocate the statue to someplace maybe a little more appropriate.
Weiner, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being with us. Jay, do we have another comment?
That's all the comments we have, Mr. Chair.
With no further comment, we will move on to agenda item 5. And as we do that, it's the opportunity for commissioners, staff to offer comments at the start of a meeting. I'd like to welcome our 3 new commissioners on their service to the Human Rights Commission. We've got Commissioner Owen, Commissioner Ramaran, and Commissioner Shepard. All 3 are joining us today for the first time in their term with the commission. And I just would like to start us off that, the commission was established 28 years ago, and our mandate then was to monitor the city's performance in meeting its human rights obligations. Our role is the same today as it was 28 years ago. It is to promote respect for the rights and dignity of everyone in Palm Springs, and to work with others to help build communities that are fair and inclusive. This is the backbone of our work as commissioners on the Human Rights Commission. This is the work that the 3 of you will now be joining and undertaking as commissioners with the Human Rights Commission in the city of Palm Springs. So I'd like to invite each of you to just give us a 60-second introduction of yourself. And 60 seconds is really 60 seconds. So just give us a brief introduction of yourself so we can start the meeting off with a little more information about you. We'll certainly learn more about each other as time goes on, and we will have an onboarding process specifically for the 3 of you so we can bring you up to speed as to what the process of serving as a commissioner is all about, what our guidelines are that we work, the parameters that we work within. But today's a beginning, and we just would like to hear a little bit about each one of you. We'll start with Commissioner Owen.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm a relatively new resident of Palm Springs. I moved here late last year. after spending about 10 years in Hong Kong and Tokyo. I did PR for an international art gallery there, and I also ran the Hong Kong Human Rights Arts Prize for a few years. Now I'm a judge. I'm most interested in migrant workers' rights. Hong Kong has a lot of that, and I know that that's also an issue in this area as well. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you and kind of navigating this new COVID-19 era and how we can best serve the City Council and our residents.
Welcome. Commissioner Shepherd. You're on mute.
Hello, am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Oh, good for me. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Oh, I am so sorry. My intention was to be home today to do this on my own computer, but I didn't make it, so I'm having to punt. Anyway, delighted to join all of you on Palm Springs Human Rights Commission. I just recently retired after a 35-year career as a director of human resources, primarily in the hospitality industry. The hospitality industry got me familiar with low-wage work earners and many of the challenges and problems that come along in their lives. I also have a multiracial family, just a little bit of everything, and obviously with the current well, since I was born, I've had the concerns that the Black Lives Matter organizations are pointing out now, so I want to assist in any way possible.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ramaran.
Thank you, Chair DeHart. Good afternoon, fellow commissioners. I'm so proud to be. This is exciting. This is the first meeting together, and we're already in a new era with this Zoom. Zoom is actually providing this new access, which I'm really excited about. I was born and raised in Palm Springs, and I went away for 20 years, came back after living in New York City for 20 years. I'm currently involved on a lot of different levels here in my neighborhood in Veterans Tract near Demuth Park. We founded an organization called Bayanihan Desert to look at the civic engagement of Filipinos. And we're very much interested since the districting of Palm Springs last year. I also serve on the Census Committee, which I'm really excited about. We had our first Census Caravan last week, which was really exciting. And I'm just very proud to be serving on human rights. It's a commission that I'm still learning more about too. And I think a lot of our residents are too. And I'm proud to be able to, provide that bridge to folks. And hopefully we can get more people involved. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome. Before we move on to the approval of minutes, I also want to give a shout out to Commissioner Eames, who during the last few months really took a leadership role in looking at or in identifying the issue of the fraud and misuse of monies that could be fallen onto those that are in our most vulnerable population, here in Palm Springs. And the Commissioner Eames was very diligent in doing some background research and putting together a proposal for a resolution to address the issue of providing additional sense of security and to help reduce the risk of fraud and misuse of stimulus monies. We weren't able to really find a way to put teeth into the resolution on which jurisdiction would be enforcing such a resolution. So it's not something that we were able to move forward, but I just want to acknowledge Commissioner Eames for the work that he put into doing some research and really identifying the issue and encourage everyone that this really is what we want to continue to do, is identify the challenges and issues that are in our community, and then to identify ways where we can bring solution to an issue or problem. So kudos to Commissioner Eames for your work on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6, approval of the minutes. The minutes are included in the packet. I suspect this would fall on all prior serving commissioners, but Jay, are the current commissioners invited to vote on past minutes?
Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, if they were not at the meeting, they should not be voting on the past minutes.
Okay, so that's noted for our new commissioners. Minutes presented for Monday, March 9th, 2020. Do I have a motion for approval?
Yes. Motion.
Vice Chair Chappelle, seconded by, I think I heard Commissioner Flood, but I saw Commissioner Andrade's hand. So
Okay,
Jay, seconded by Commissioner Flood. All in favor of accepting the minutes for Monday, March 9th as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Minutes are accepted as presented. Item 7, items for discussion. At this point, the items for discussion, I'm sorry, I didn't make the round for commissioner staff comments. I commented and I didn't let anybody else. So we'll go back to item number 5. We'll go to Vice Chair Chappelle.
All right. Thank you, Chair. I don't have a comment.
Commissioner Andrade.
Just welcome back, everybody. It's nice to see everyone's face.
Commissioner Eames.
No comment.
And Commissioner Flood.
No comment. Sorry you can't see me. Maybe next time I'll have it fixed.
All right. And we had the new commissioners introduce themselves already. So now we can move to item 7. This is the point in time in our meeting where the commissioners who are heading up particular committees, subcommittees, are able to bring reports to the full commission. And we start off with 7A, the Palm Springs Police Department LGBT Outreach Committee, of which I serve on as the liaison for the Human Rights Commission. The update from our most recent meeting are the hate crimes statistics that we have reported for the month of June. And kudos to our community. I'm looking for them. The incidents and crimes are very low. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find that.
Forget about me for a few minutes. Go do what you gotta do.
So for the month of June, there is just 4 incidences that were reported and investigated by the police department. And then most recently here on July 7th, which probably received more attention in the media and certainly within our community. The police department was called to the James O. Jesse Desert Highland Unity Center, where they were witnessed that the several walls of the building had been spray painted with graffiti. A portion of that graffiti was directed towards the LGBT community, and after investigation, the suspect or the person who was being investigated was arrested for felony vandalism a misdemeanor hate crime, and misdemeanor possession of an unloaded firearm, and misdemeanor possession of a concealed dagger. So during these times, we would think that we would see a lot more reporting of hate crimes and hate incidences. So I guess on one hand, we're fortunate in our city that we're not seeing an uptick in reporting statistics. So that's the update from the Palm Springs Police Department Outreach Committee. We don't have anybody assigned a master calendar. Is there any comment on the master calendar? I know we're getting back into the swing of things, so we really haven't been following our calendar. And for the new commissioners, we will share during the onboarding process. This may be something that one of you will like to take the leadership on and help oversee the calendar, which also includes our participation in community events, and including parades or potential tabling at different community functions. But this person would be the person to help oversee that community participation and representation of the commission in the community. Next up, Main Street. I'm the representative for Main Street. Nothing new, with specifically related to the Human Rights Commission to report there. Commissioner Eames, update on finance. You're muted. You're still muted.
Okay, how's that? Oh, okay, there we go.
It's good. It will take us a little while to get the hang of this, won't it?
Yeah. So we were actually almost finalizing the budget then the pandemic happened. And so, what we had to deal with, there was $1,123.96. That was a result of a legacy project that was that we did in the past. So that budget that we were working on hasn't been approved, and I feel like at this point, based off current real world conditions, we should reevaluate maybe where the commission is going financially and where we want to spend some money or support some initiatives.
Okay, thank you. Jay, do we know what was included in the budget that the city just approved, City Council just approved?
Specifically for the Human Rights Commission, I'd have to double check. I don't have that information in front of me for that. Other than what Commissioner Eames has just reported on for carryover.
Yeah, okay. So we will.
Is it possible to get an update for the next meeting?
Yes, absolutely.
Terrific, thanks.
So for the,
Yeah. I'll go. So what I was going to say too was, this subcommittee's small, so I noticed there's some new commissioners if they want to join me.
don't you think you're going to get all of them this easy? So we have time that we don't need to push on this today. For the new commissioners, through most of history, the commission budget has been $2,000 a year. I believe that's what was submitted as a request for the 2021 cycle. Jay will confirm with us what was approved by City Council, and we'll have that for our next meeting, so you can see the budget. It's very simple. It's very basic. $2,000 doesn't go very far at all. It covers our annual awards program. It includes insurance for the commission that we have, a few $100s on promotional items. So there's not a lot of money. You did not join a commission that has a big budget. That is a big spending budget, big spending commission. But $2,000 is what it has been for many, many, many years. And we'll get that update next week so we can share it with everyone as we go forward. And you got to give credit to Commissioner Eames for trying to reel you in to serve on the Finance Committee. I think what we'll do is we'll give you an introduction to what all the subcommittees are, and then we can see where your areas of interest are. And then at that time, then you can let us know what may have greater appeal to you. And then after you make those selections, our hope would be that we will have filled any vacancies that might currently exist on any of the subcommittees. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
we'll do that moving forward. We don't have a rep for the organized neighborhoods of Palm Springs. Does anybody have anything to update or report on 1PS? Not having any, we'll move on to the Cultural Affairs Committee. Any updates on Cultural Affairs Committee film screening?
So Commissioner Andrade, if it's okay if I start, but hearing that Commissioner Randolph has chosen to go on, and that was kind of her baby there. I don't know if we'll go on with a film screening in the way that we did. We have done 2 film screenings in the past. They were on different platforms. One was at the Palm Springs Cultural Center, and one was at the library, and we were able to get a terrific film then on homelessness. I do think that public viewings of films that have teeth is definitely a good way for the Human Rights Commission to get people involved and to understand that this commission is here and that we are here, we have a purpose. So Commissioner Andrade, even though I didn't find the film either time, I do believe that it's something that we could continue to look at, although in these times of COVID, we don't know when it is going to be possible for us to get back together in a social viewing, but I do believe that that's something that we should hold on to, although at this time we'll have to keep revisiting it, and then when we decide that it's time to go, it's going to take us months to make it happen. So is that what you're thinking, Commissioner Andrade? Are you on the same?
I'm optimistic that, we are going to have another opportunity to do something like that. I think the current social and cultural and political climate is going to give us a lot of possibilities for films and things of that nature. And Nikki, Commissioner Randolph did leave us with some Harold and myself with some options and some
right.
So we're looking forward to continuing with that, and you're right, the big question is when are we gonna have, the opportunity to gather people in the numbers that we would need in order to get a return on our money and to make a statement
Right.
from the commission.
Right. I think, though, with that said, when we're talking about the budget, Commissioner Eames will have to keep in mind in the back of our budget that if we did decide to do a screening, that there is going to be a charge for the film that we
Right.
use.
Right, yeah, I think.
Whether big or small. The first film, I think it was $250, and it was a very good film. The producer was Susan Sarandon's son. The second film I know cost considerably more than that, I think. I can't recall.
Format too, right, with the reception, and we charged, I know that we didn't charge for the first film, so this second one we did, and hence the money we have in our budget right now.
Right.
But yeah, I think that, we would be wise to continue on with it, and the timing is going to be the biggest issue.
Right. Right. It could be something that occurs after I'm done. But I think, well, this is my 6th year. I'll be done in June. But I do believe that it's something to keep working towards.
I agree.
Okay, we will invite you to bring another update, what a forward plan would be in these COVID-19 times also. That certainly changed the fundamental idea of bringing the community together through education with a film of any topic. So that outreach would have to be done via a virtual type of an event. Certainly going well into early 2021 is what I think our expectation can be. So we'll look forward to an updated report from the subcommittee there. Next item is the Community Service Awards. This subcommittee generally will come together in September or October timeframe and reevaluate or readdress the timeline that we follow for the annual recognition awards for the commission. And these are the awards that acknowledge community, not necessarily residents, but community folks that are involved in the community, doing good directly at home with an eye towards those with focusing on human rights accomplishments. So we've got the three commissioners that are serving on this committee, myself, the vice chair, and Commissioner Eames were on the committee from last year. I have not heard that we are, any one of us is wanting to look into it or another committee. So Commissioner Eames, are you continuing?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and I know Vice Chair is going to be.
Yes, I am.
So we will start that process. We will have a subcommittee meeting probably in September, October, and begin that process, bring information back to the full commission at that point in time. Next item, Desert Highland Gateway Estates Community Association update from Commissioner Andrade or Commissioner Flood.
Well, I haven't been able to go to a meeting, and I'm glad you brought that incident up, the hate crime incident. So I'm going to monitor the situation as far as what the people at the association, what they plan to say or do about that.
I'm not sure if they're having virtual meetings or not.
I'm not sure of that either. I made a couple of calls and haven't gotten anything back yet, so I will keep on track with that.
Okay, excellent. Commissioner Andrade, anything to add? Okay, I read your lips. Even you're muted. Okay, Commissioner Flood, you're up again with veterans issues.
Not too much on that right now either. I keep monitoring or checking the Department of Veterans Affairs, and they've taken a step to streamline the screening of veterans during the for medical attention during the coronavirus pandemic. They say they announced this, I guess, end of June, that what they plan to do is to offer veterans a tool that could screen them early or before they go in for a type of observation or treatment that would make, I guess, supposedly streamline it. They can do that by texting the word screen, or also going on the VA Gov website to get more information. But that's one of the things that they really trying to stress now. They want to help the veterans out on that, because, as you know, the veterans sometimes complain about the slow service at the hospitals. That's all I have right now.
Excellent, thank you for that. Next up, we have the student representative, and this is overseen by our Vice Chair Chappelle. At our last meeting, we did vote and approve Solange Signoret to serve as a student representative of the commission. And
Right, and that was the applicant that I was talking about. So do we know if anybody's contacted Solange?
Following a note that I saw.
I just forwarded you the application. I mean, I'd be happy to call her.
Yeah, prior to today's meeting, following an email that I saw, the recommendation was that we gave her summer month, and we follow up with her and invite her to start service at the beginning of the school year for the September meeting.
Okay, so would that be, Jay, would you be contacting her to invite her?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then commissioners, it's been about 2.5 years. I might be a little off on that, since we've had 2 student commissioners. Their role is to bring things back to us that are going on in the school communities, that are activities that are happening where they support the growth of human rights, or questions that are out there. We've tried a couple of different ways to get ourselves out there, so that the schools would be aware that we were there. I still have one applicant that I continue to check back to every once in a while to see if they're ready to apply. The positions are 2, and they can be from a middle school student or a high school student that attends a Palm Springs school. So if you know anybody who would like to apply, the application is on our website. In the past, it was nice to have student reps, because they bring us their concerns, and they bring us the cool things that we don't hear about that are happening in the schools and in the clubs. And like Ron had talked about, I mean, we've got kids in our Palm Springs community that are just gearing up and leading marches and educational gatherings. So I feel like with those 2 positions not being filled, that it leaves us with a void. So if there's anybody out there that you talk to who come from those 2 backgrounds encourage them to apply. Now that our meeting times have changed, it is probably going to be better for a kiddo to be a part of our group. And it looks good on their resume, and the team here has a lot to gain from a young person's point of view. So I'm excited because we have one, and if we can get two, then I will be very excited. So that is the goal that I have this year, is to get that second chair.
Okay. May we comment here?
Sure.
Mhm.
I have one item just to talk about in regards to student representation. I hope we could look at not just having representatives. I think if they're going to be applying and they're going to be serving, they should have a vote and they should have a title. That's just my first,
Yeah.
this is my first opinion about having students. They're not just for, cool things. That's all.
Sure. So
It's making a really important way to, cohesively have them involved. Not just, I don't want to tokenize them. That's
So, Commissioner, you are on track. We did change the application process a couple years ago, which could be how come we haven't had filled chairs, to have expectations that they not just be somebody sitting in a chair that when we go around the room and we ask what's going on and there's nothing to tell us. And that we would expect them to be at the filmings and to take an active and to be with us when we're out in the community. We have asked a few times if they can have a vote, and in the bylaws, I believe, Commissioner DeHarte, they cannot be a voting member. That's something that we haven't been able to change. But we definitely did update the application because we wanted people who were really going to be effective, understanding that they have a whole bunch of work outside of here, but that it would be important for us to get their point of view and to have them be helping us so that we could grow them into a good community member too, because I think that the commission can agree that when kids start young, we have kinder, stronger adults. But as far as the voting, we've talked about that a number of times.
So it's a good, your point is well taken, and the Human Rights Commission has never looked at youth as tokenizing the youth. The commission for many, many, many years in the city of Palm Springs is the only commission that has sought out and invited youth participation in the commission. I know, Jay, I don't know if you have any additional information on what has happened in the last 8 months or so with the city council, but the city council certainly is looking at the potential of having youth serving on all commissions, and with that came the question of the legality of minors serving in these official capacities. Is there any update that you can share with us, Jay, on this is a city ordinance issue. This isn't a Human Rights Commission issue that is preventing a full vote from a minor that sits at the commission table.
It's been discussed quite a bit. I believe even at this commission, we've run into the same issue of having the minors vote, but it seems like a determined council that does want to implement a change like this. So as I do get updates, I will report back to the commission on that, but for now, it is not allowed.
Yeah. So it's the Commissioner Runner, the point is taken, and it's been a very loud point that has been brought to City Council. So we will await future guidance to come from Council. But in the meantime, we have a great student who is an exceptional leader at Palm Springs High School, and to have her joining us is going to be just a wonderful opportunity to elevate the voice of youth in our community.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got the update from the Executive Committee. July 30th is the World Day Against Human Trafficking. Does anybody want to speak toward human trafficking? The last month when we had a World Day that was recognized, I was supposed to have brought my notes, and I forgot my notes in the printer. Today I made sure I have the notes so I could speak to it. During the last term of the commission voted to acknowledge certain international days of importance through the year. And July is recognized as the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. The day is recognized on July 30th. On this World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, let us reaffirm our commitment to stop criminals from ruthlessly exploiting people for profit and to help victims rebuild their lives. That is a quote from the UN Secretary General. Human trafficking is a crime that exploits women, children, and men for numerous purposes, including forced labor and sex. Since 2003, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime has collected information on about 225,000 victims of trafficking detected worldwide. Globally, countries are detecting and reporting more victims and are convicting more traffickers. This can be the result of increased capacity to identify victims and/or an increased number of trafficked victims. Every country in the world is affected by human trafficking, whether as a country of origin, transit, or destination for victims. Traffickers the world over continue to target women and girls. The vast majority of detected victims of trafficking for sexual exploitation and 35% of those trafficked for forced labor are female. Conflict further exacerbates vulnerabilities with armed groups exploiting civilians and traffickers targeting forcibly displaced people. Data shows that trafficking happens all around us, as the share of persons trafficked within their own country has doubled in recent years to 58% of all detected victims, according to the 2018 global report from the UN. So the International Days are occasions to educate the public on issues of concern, to mobilize political will and resources to address global problems, and to celebrate and reinforce achievements of humanity. The existence of these international days predates the establishment of the United Nations, but the United Nations has embraced them as a powerful advocacy tool. So that is my update for the Commission and those watching on July 30th, the World Day Against Human Trafficking. And don't be for 2 seconds to think that human trafficking doesn't occur in Coachella Valley. We are just as present in the human trafficking arena as anywhere else in the world. Next up, we have the Any update on mediation with Commissioner Andrade?
Definitely still interested in researching a training source, and with 3 new commissioners, it probably would be a good time with
Can't hear.
orientation to find out if there's interest or experience among us in terms of people that would like to participate in the training and ultimately participate in the effort. And we can explain further with, you know, what the occasions might be and the need might be, but I'm going to guess that the training is probably on hold everywhere with everything else, but definitely the interest is still there, and I'm more than happy to take that on.
Excellent. So for the new commissioners, one of the functions of the commissioner through the years has been to serve as the official mediator for the city of Palm Springs. And actually it was the second bullet point that was read for us today on the goals of the commission to investigate and mediate instances of discrimination of groups of individuals. In recent years, going back 4 or 5 years, I think, we've had some instances of mediation brought to the commission, and those instances have all fallen back onto other jurisdictions that fall outside of the Human Rights Commission's scope of work. Generally, fair housing is where those issues have been resolved. So we have not been asked to be in a position of serving in a mediated capacity, which has been fortunate for us because our last commissioner that is a certified mediator went off the commission 3 years ago, or maybe a little more, and we have not gone through a new cycle of certified mediators with our commissioners, so we can provide that source or be a resource if we are asked to serve in that capacity. So that's what Commissioner Andrade was referencing, and she will provide us with another update in a future meeting. So we've got a better understanding of what it looks like for us to serve as that resource for the city. Okay, we're at item 7B on the agenda, update on City Council community listening sessions.
Chair, you skipped item B under the Commissioner Development Mediation, the retreat, but we all know we're not going to have a retreat right now, but we might decide to have a virtual retreat once our commissioners are on board, and then we could do that maybe September, October for like an hour.
Yes, and this was a test for the new commissioners to see if I was following the agenda. So thank you for pointing out that I skipped another item.
Anytime.
Traditionally, not necessarily that we follow tradition, but traditionally, through the years, once a year, the commission gets together and has a retreat, and retreat is a big word, but a moment to gather thoughts and ideas and goals for the coming year, and to help everyone have a unified vision and a better understanding of expectations of what the year will bring forward. So we haven't had a formal all-day program for several years, and that's what Vice Chair Chappelle is pointing out, this retreat item. And I think this is with so many new commissioners, 3 cycling on, and then most recently with Commissioner Eames and Commissioner Flood. This would be a good time for us to have a session where of that by Zoom, and we can walk through and spend a few hours together to really go through the work of the commission. So that's something that we'll throw back to the subcommittee to maybe put a calendar together so we can get something for early, for fall.
Right, and that would be you and I, and I just want to say that typically the retreats used to be a full day, and we found that people really were too busy. Then we kind of stepped away from it, and we found that people who came on, Commissioner Flood and Commissioner Eames, were kind of put into the pool and didn't have any instruction. And it occurred to us that it's important that we support people coming on so that they know what they're charged to do. They don't feel like they aren't being effective, and then they go on. The commission wants you here. We want you to know what it is that you're charged to do. You can contact 1 or 2 of us with questions. We can't go any larger than that, or it's a quorum. But it's important that you know that the commission is thrilled to have you here, and that you won't know exactly what this entails for a bit, but just having your presence present is going to be the biggest part in when things are confusing. If you could reach out to one of us, we would be happy to help you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now we can move to item 7C, right? Jay, are you giving us the update on?
That would be Mr. Chair, and for 7B.
B.
I don't know if you all
7B.
use the chat feature in Zoom. I just posted a link to the information on the City Council's listening session on policing, racism, discrimination, and other topics along those lines. We all know there's been a lot going on in various cities throughout the country, and I believe the council wants to hear from its residents and the Human Rights Commission to hear about concerns that you may have in regards to city operations and any ideas that you can contribute towards having being able to address these issues for the city of Palm Springs. The listening session will be this Saturday, July 18th at 11 a.m. And the information, again, that I pasted into the chat box has the information you would need for logging in and listening and participating with the council on that discussion.
And there was a flyer to this at the very end of the paperwork that we just got, in case anybody missed it.
Right, it's part of your package, the flyer. Thank you, Vice Chair. And that's the announcement for that. I know the city wanted to make sure the Human Rights Commission was definitely aware of this event. So
Thank you very much. Now we are at item 7C, topical and newsworthy items. This is an opportunity for commissioners to just share items of general interest with the commission and the community. Normally it would be easy to go around the table, but I've got the Partridge Family Squares. So in the lower left is Commissioner Ramaram. Any topical or newsworthy items you would like to share with us? A lot of times this is events that are coming up or items of significance that you're aware of, significant happenings in the community that you just want to make the rest of the commission aware of.
I think it was great to hear from David Weiner at the beginning. I think that's one of the most topical issues that's happening within our city. Black Lives Matter is obviously one of the biggest things that's happened in the past few months. And I want to please give a major shout out to Chair DeHart for being so open to providing our web page for the Human Rights Commission to provide access for people who want to report any anti-Asian discrimination and hate crimes. I think that was something, you know, I mean, I'm not sure if everyone knew that, but that was something that did happen while we were in recess or we weren't meeting. But I do want to, you know, make a point of that's something, you know, that was responsive to COVID-19, the pandemic, and of course to racial and social justice as well. And I'm very, very proud of that as well. So thank you, Chair DeHart.
All right, coming across the bottom of the square, Commissioner Shepherd.
I have a question about the petition that was put forward at the beginning of the meeting also. What's the process with that? Where does that go next? Or do we have some responsibility to respond to that?
Well, on the next item 9, we can discuss that subject as an agenda item, but
Okay.
since it's not an agendized item for today, it's not something we can discuss.
Okay, very good. I just think we have a unique opportunity in our country right now. People's minds and hearts seem to be open to change as much as I've seen in my lifetime. And I think we need to do everything we can to support our city council and our community in making some of the changes that have come to light, and particularly with the Section 14 issues.
Thank you. Commissioner Flood.
I lost track of the Harvey Milk Breakfast. Can you bring us up to speed on that? Is it still on for in the fall or whenever?
No, so the breakfast was canceled and first postponed to July 11, and then it was canceled some time ago, and it would have actually taken place just this past Saturday.
Okay, so it's canceled for this year, in other words.
Right. So
Okay.
hopefully a new event will be scheduled for 2021.
All right, thank you.
Coming around, Commissioner Andrade. I think I read your lips to say you don't have anything.
Can I turn my microphone on?
Now we can hear you. You're very, very low.
Okay. No.
All right. Okay, very good. Coming across, Commissioner Eames.
I just want to welcome the new commissioners, and I look forward to getting to know everybody and working with you folks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Owen.
No, I think that I'll save this for number 9.
Thank you. Vice Chair Chappelle.
The only thing I have is a question for Jay, and it's probably there. I just didn't look. Is on our page in a nice little area, does it show that we're meeting via Zoom and that people can put in their request to be a speaker by a deadline?
Yes. All the agendas have the updated information for participating via Zoom,
Okay.
submitting
More information.
email messages to the clerk, and submitting what I think is new. They were talking about at the last council meeting are just voicemail messages or videos that can be played during the meeting. So they don't have to be present for the meeting, but they can submit video and voice messages.
Okay, and is the commission still working with Annie?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then
Yeah.
I just wanted to welcome our commissioners again, and to just let you be aware. I think it's like months before I even realized that these are taped or broadcasted. So I think that is an important component for us to be aware of. Okay.
Jay, any topical newsworthy items for yourself?
Appreciate that, Mr. Chair, but no, nothing other than what all the commissioners have already mentioned.
All right. And I would just like to acknowledge, Dale Cook, who served as our city liaison and was an employee for the city of Palm Springs for many years. His last session, he departed employment with the city. Good for him, taking advantage of the circumstances. But Dale was always a true, wonderful city servant and great support to the Human Rights Commission. And we wish him well in his retirement. And we will certainly miss him here around the table at the Human Rights Commission. So next we have action items. 8A, the 2020-21 meeting schedule. We had the schedule included in the packet. Jay, is this an item we need to approve?
Yes, Mr. Chair. At this time, it helps for scheduling the next meeting, confirming being dark in August, but we can definitely make changes as may be needed. And if anything needs to be rescheduled, it's obviously up to the commission to hold additional meetings. But this would be the regular meetings.
Right. So I would like to suggest this is a normal schedule for the commission for the year. So nothing out of the ordinary other than we're not going to be meeting in person for many of these dates. And the August we typically match City Council's agenda. So City Council is dark in August. What I'd like to suggest is that if timing and allows, that we use our August as a month that we can take advantage for the onboarding for the new commissioners, and then resume the regular schedule on Monday, September 14. And I would assume that's going to be a Zoom meeting for the near future.
That'll be fine.
So I will entertain a motion that we accept the Human Rights Commission 2020-21 meeting schedule as presented into the packet. Commissioner Andrade, seconded by
Second.
I second.
Commissioner Owen raised his hand first. All in favor of accepting the the human rights schedule for 2020-2021, say aye.
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 Any opposition? All right, the schedule is adopted as presented. 8B, Commissioner Recruitment. Jay, I need your help on this one also.
Okay, no problem. Mr. Chair, as we may have discussed earlier in the meeting, Commissioner Randolph's term has come to an end, and Commissioner Randolph has decided not to continue in that capacity. So the city clerk is in the process of recruiting new commissioners for the entire city. And so for this one opening, I've been informed that they have 4 applications, but there's definitely still an opportunity to submit for anyone who might be interested. The application is online and is available for anyone else to fill in that information.
Okay, thank you. Next item, item 9, agenda items for the next Human Rights Commission meeting, which is Monday, September 14, 2020. Commissioner Shepard, this is the opportunity for you to bring up an agenda item for a future meeting.
Okay, I'm just curious what the process is with the young man's petition that he presented to us.
So we can bring forward an agenda item to discuss the petition that is, the existing petition in the community that creates the opportunity for us to have that discussion within the commission. So we can certainly add that in for an agenda item on the next meeting.
Thank you.
From that discussion, action can come. So, that's why we get it on the agenda, then we can talk about it, and then the commission can decide what direction they would like to take, with a particular item.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other items? Yes.
Chair, would it be appropriate then for us just to go through our committees, look at if there's anybody interested in getting on one, getting off one, just to try to start to get people involved?
So committee assignments for the agenda item? Yes. Got it. Any other items for the next agenda?
I don't know if this is the proper moment to ask about this, but I know that the Arts Commission has kind of social media, and they're on Instagram and Facebook and things like that. But I don't think that the Human Rights Commission is on. I don't know if that's been discussed in the past. If there's maybe something we can add to the agenda next time to discuss it. I don't know, but I see some, like, interesting faces, but I don't know.
It's a never-ending discussion.
Yeah. So
I'm sure it's been raised, but it's something, if we're talking about commissioner recruitment, things like that, it might just be interesting to explore again, but I guess if it's been discussed prior.
Commissioner Owen, let me just interject. The Public Arts Commission has their own dedicated fund source that comes from a percentage of developer permit fees. So they've hired a social media person to help get all that information online. We have a communications director who's shared with 5 city council members and several other commissions, but it's a good conversation to bring back to the commission. It's just going to be probably be a budget matter. So
perhaps we can invite Amy to the September meeting to just brief us on what guidelines and procedures are in place for commissions to do social media outreach and just outreach in general when it comes to media that represents the city. Is that something, Jay, that you think we could invite her to the September meeting and she can just?
We can invite her. I'm not sure if she's the keeper of the policy and would be able to provide all that guidance. Typically, there's some different opinions on how each commission should engage in social media. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to bring her on, and maybe we could convince the city manager to participate too. So we'll try to get
Is the city manager the better person for us to invite? Because this has been a topic for way too many years, and starting with a new group of commissioners, I certainly would like them to hear directly from the source as to what the guidelines and challenges that we face.
Right. Let me investigate a little more, and I will try to have the appropriate person at the September meeting.
So we'll just list it as communications and outreach guidelines.
And Commissioner DeHarte, not to change the subject, Commissioner Owen, I think that is a great question. Again, you can look around and look at our faces and we go, yeah, because we've talked about it. Not that we can't keep talking about it, but I wonder, and I can't remember her odd name, but I used to see her on the news every once in a while. She's the Palm Springs historian. We had her at a meeting about 3 or 4 years ago, who came in. She spent about 20 minutes. She took us through the whole section 14 thing, showed us a brief video. It was very educational, and because I didn't grow up here, I wasn't aware. But I do think that it would be a good time to have her come back. And Jay, you probably know her name. She's the historian person. That
Is it the person or the subject that we would like to be briefed?
Well, the person was very good. That's how come I say the person. And she's done it a few times on the local news since the Black Lives Matter. Since
So
people are now paying attention, I think it would be good to have her come back to us.
So why don't we, if I can take the liberty of not using a person's name, but let's list it as a subject, and maybe we have a guest speaker on section 14, and it could be Renee Brown or not, but
right,
maybe
that's who it is.
we just guest speaker on section 14.
Also, hearing Commissioner Ramaran's reminder that the Asian community is being challenged at this time, and having a Asian grandson. I believe that in the future it could be good to look into something like that too, because we haven't done anything like that. And in these times, we have to think about all of the parties being affected. I don't know what that would look like. Just a thought.
Okay, thank you.
May I respond to that, Chair?
Sure.
Vice Chair, thank you, Vice Chair. I'm glad you brought that up, and I like that you brought up the Historic Society or historian as well. I think it'd be great to bring in the stories that have not been heard, and I think you said that if the Historic Society has been consulted so many times, we don't want to go to the same. We don't want to do the same story. I think we need to hear the stories that haven't been heard, and I think that's what you're talking about also with the Asian community. We haven't been heard. And the communities who have been displaced because of Section 14 have not been heard. And I think that will be a great way to look towards healing. And that's what I'm looking at.
And that could be, commissioners, if we can think about that in the next month and think about the topics that perhaps this is our year of really getting those topics out there. And what we've talked about in these past couple of years is, how do we educate people? We have a platform here. Of course, keeping with supporting our council, because that's our purpose. But how can we help them and keep working towards being a benefit with a purpose to our community?
Agenda items for the next meeting. Any other items that we need to have scheduled now for our next meeting? I will bring back one that directive we got just as COVID was reaching a start in Palm Springs. City Council has referred to the Human Rights Commission specific issue for us to address, no timeline given. So the Human Rights Commission is being asked by the City Council to take on the renaming of streets, specifically Martin Luther King Jr., Lawrence Crosley, Harvey Milk, and Barack Obama. So that will be an agendized item for our next meeting. Any other items? That will be plenty for us to try and tackle in September. Okay. Item 10, any announcements? Jay, you have any announcements for us that we haven't covered?
I believe we've covered most of them, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other announcements from any of the commissioners that we need to address?
I don't think so.
All right, I don't have an announcement, but in closing, I want to give encouragement to our new commissioners. We know that you're full of promise and hope in what we can achieve by your service on the commission. I ask for patience. It takes time, and it takes more time during COVID and the way that we have to operate now during COVID. But we want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what the role is and how we can function, how we are able to function within the guidelines within the city structure. So I think the onboarding opportunity is going to be very important. We want you to start off with a good understanding of our roles and sometimes what may appear, it could be a daunting task, and other times it can be very, very frustrating because the wheels of bureaucracy and government may not necessarily turn at the speed that we would want them to turn so we can accomplish those dreams and hopes that you bring to the table. I don't want you to get discouraged, so I ask you to be patient as we start. This is your very first meeting. The world will not change in 1 hour, but we certainly can bring some significant change working together as the commission on behalf of all the residents in Palm Springs. And if we do this in a united voice and we're able to work together. So I ask, I appreciate your service and that your commitment to the commission as we go forward. And Jay, we traditionally, we've gotten away from presenting the 3.5-inch binder that has all the information for the commissioners, but there's a thumb drive have the new commissioners, have you received the thumb drive with all your commission background? So Jay, if we can get those thumb drive or the thumb drives for each of the new commissioners, and then new commissioners, as you get your thumb drive, there's going to be some many hours of enjoyable reading on your part that will be able to give you a much broader perspective on what the commission is all about, where we've come from, and what our guidelines and parameters are. So we would ask that you get the thumb drive and you do take the time to explore, the information that's on the drive for you. Okay. And I think that's it. So having no other items that we need to bring forward to our next meeting or announcements for today, the commission will adjourn to an adjourned regular meeting Monday, September 14, 2020 at 5:30 via Zoom. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right.
That's correct.
7:02. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios. That wasn't too bad, Jay.
No, it's great, Ron. Thank you.
And it went pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All righty.